I just got live from the consultation to discuss it. So, as we progress step by step, day by day, one step at a time, we're constantly hearing more and more of a consensus of hierarchy and short-term, long-term goals while we're working towards no longer being in this situation. Um, I'm not certain where we are with updates as far as being able to see myself. So again, just to document for record, this is not what I physically look like, but this is how my hair is styled right now. And these are the items, the articles of clothing that I'm wearing or donning right now. I'm not speaking with the right accent, but my understanding is that while I'm here, I'm not to speak with the correct origin, accent, elocution, and pronunciation. Although I would say at some point, I wonder I am going to have to return to that. So when I'm able to see myself physically, I may automatically go right back to the correct accent. So a few topics to discuss: exploitation, knowledge deficit, marketing, branding, and what's a fad, what's not a fad, accreditation standards, journalism, reporting, board certification and testing standards for licensure to be able to diagnose and prescribe, and pharmaceuticals and pharmacology. So Ayurvedic medicine is one topic, and the chakras, like the yoga industry, is another topic. We have family in India as well, so we want to also discuss nationality and how nationality is not racial identity, and there's a difference. So some people might want on the data Census Bureau collection India white or Africa white or uh, um, uh, Jamaica white, but all these other places that people stereotypically think of as far as colonization, which is another topic. So people discuss the chakras, and neurology is the next topic, and then acoustics of sound and sonar. So sonar as far as analogy for intracranial pressure, and there's a segue to neurology, people that have concussions or struggle with migraines or just have seasonal allergies or have very small sinus cavities, ear tubes, and aqueducts, ear, nose, and throat, and speech pathology is another topic as far as the senses, taste, smell, physiological sensation, proprioception, voluntary, involuntary, again referencing the parasympathetic nervous system, central nervous system, voluntary, involuntary, and the topic of yoga again and chakras is exploitation and meditation, which is body scanning, mindfulness, and tranquility. But as far as emotion regulation, which is another topic, and a deviation from baseline and maturation. So maturation means there's a level of uncertainty that's associated with a knowledge deficit, and if there's no support in developing clarifying and verifying questions, then there could be an ongoing crisis that's chronic instead of acute. And so self-medicating is a very, very different topic, and not everyone self-medicates. Sometimes people are coping and finding their way one step at a time. So as far as not retinopathy, but ocular health or ophthalmology, and adenoids, like why some children have their adenoids removed and their tonsils removed. As far as how the brain processes light, and autonomic dysreflexia is another topic that's associated with that, and psychedelics, when people are poisoned with psychedelics, and the cruelty associated with that. Gut health is ultimately the bigger umbrella topic, how people absorb food. water soluble, fat soluble, the enzymatic process of saliva. So as far as altitude, if that's the best way to discuss the acoustics and how that affects urgency, or if people experience urgency or have a lag that's not constipation. And micro and macro nutrients, when some people, again, this talking of like constipation, but some people don't experience what would be a typical or atypical symptom of that. People just know their food preferences, if that's the best way to say that, but they're not really fiber centric. Color, consistency, frequency, odor, all of that. Secondary exposure, onset, peak duration, half-life, a lot. So the topic of trust and mistrust during a developing interim situation, and the topic of focus and commitment and discipline and acceptance. Radical acceptance is something that's a topic associated with our work, but we were never, as far as like the de-escalation team at Brush, that you never contacted us to collaborate. And I don't know where the psych team or the medical professionals are at. That's the best way to do that. But as far as like immunization scheduling for infants, that's kind of not the same as food, but people go through the stages of pureed to solid food. And as far as the process of verifying whether or not children have food allergies is something so different than what's going on right now for us. And usually people have had bouts of food poisoning, like I don't know what the statistics are, like in 100 people, how many have ever been food poisoned once in their lifetime might be extremely rare. Maybe 1 out of 100,000 or 1,000,000 or something like that. Like food poisoning is not normal, it's extremely rare. But the trauma associated with, are you vomiting? And it's just like 12 to 24 hours, and then you're fine, and there's no aversion to food, like automatically, instantaneously, you're back to eating pretty much any and every kind of food group, right? That's not what's going on with us. So as far as whether or not we have no privacy, and we're not saying that to be rude, we're just saying to give examples of where we're at on a regular basis, what a typical day is or isn't, maintaining a structured schedule. We're thankful. We're thankful and we stay focused on what's possible versus the reality of like what shouldn't be happening, but we still remain very thankful. And sometimes, so as far as whether or not I was trying to gauge if I was developing the flu or hay fever or sinus pressure, there would still be some sort of intervention, reporting, documentation, reporting of symptoms, and intervention. So this is still not an optimal situation where we can't overlook and ignore what the experience is, and so we remain committed to documenting. But this is a lot to be experiencing on a daily basis, and there's no reason for this. So as far as like what the reality of capacity is or isn't, and that there's a group of people that keep trying to incapacitate and only take what serves their short-term, long-term goals at the cost of so many civilians is really just benevolent is not the right word, malevolent. So as far as how the past few days been, what's the date? What any new experiences or anything or new scheduling? We don't have any updates, so that's the best way to say that. And we're not certain what to expect. And the reality of situation of how our family has been affected, I would say, is where we're at. And so we believe, me and my husband believe that if people have the chance to be briefed, then, well, hierarchy, what does hierarchy mean in consideration of a knowledge deficit? And then if the deficit is alleviated. So as far as how this has affected us and the ethics, we just don't know what to expect or anticipate. And so as far as people that are global developmental delay or differently able, the color, if that's okay for in conclusion, the chakra colors, there's no correlation to how light, the prisma of light is processed. That's all. And so what I mean to say is when people don't realize that there's an exploitation in that way, that's